North and South Seafood and Smokehouse presents The Kelly Sheffield Show on 100.5 ESPN and Wisconsin On Demand. Alongside Wisconsin Badgers Volleyball head coach Kelly Sheffield, here's Jon Arias.
Welcome in. It's The Kelly Sheffield Show, brought to you by North and South Seafood and Smokehouse. I'm Jon Arias, joined by Wisconsin head volleyball coach Kelly Sheffield, and we're going to be talking about that big win at Mackey Arena in just a moment. We'll take a look at tonight's match against Nebraska, just a monster match for the Badgers, and then later on in the program, your questions, viewer questions for the head coach. But Kelly, welcome, and what a win at Mackey. That environment, everything about that match, the way you guys were able to sweep, what a win at Mackey.
It was a great win, great environment, largest regular season Big Ten crowd. Hopefully that's not lasting more than a year. There was a lot of excitement in the building to start out, and and it got quieter as the match went on. It seemed to get, so really, I think it was the largest crowd our team has ever played on the road, in conference or out of conference. That is not a neutral site. We've been a part of some really big neutral site games and some home games, but actually going on the road where everybody's against you. So you're always interested to see how your team is going to respond in that type of situation. And I thought we did a pretty good job with it.
Yeah, I thought it was a great moment. It's just a great moment for the sport, right? Like, not only the crowd and everything, but the coverage with NBC. And if you tuned in on a Saturday afternoon, because there were tons of obviously college sports fans flipping around the TV on a Saturday afternoon, and they saw just everything like that and got to witness your team. I just thought the whole package, everything about it was great for the sport, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I thought NBC did a really good job with it. The graphics were fantastic. Obviously, it's a first class crew that they brought in. The three of them have Paul, Holly, and Heather. Those three have worked together numerous times over the years, and they flow real well together, and they do their homework going in. And and then I thought the crowd, the environment really was fantastic. No doubt about it.
You saw Charlie and Sarah each do a cartwheel afterwards. Have you seen that video footage? Did you know Sarah's doing cartwheels now?
I was right next to them. Yeah. So I saw them do it, and they try to get me to do it going out. But they're one of my all-time favorite movies is Caddyshack, and so when he goes, it hurts when I do this. It's I tried to. Where's the camera? There, like that. I tried to use that one, and they called BS on me.
I thought in that match too, Charlie Furbringer's serving run was maybe the turning point of the match in that first set, when she's back there dealing a couple of aces, I think, for 11 straight points.
Yeah. It's she puts a lot of pressure on people. She puts in really good balls over and over and over again. And when she misses, it's usually only by a couple of inches. It's usually really close. And so she's got a repeatable serve, and it's flat, and it dances and moves, and she can put it in the area of the court, and she's courageous behind the service line, which is certainly what you want. And in row one, she's our row one server, and she was serving into row one, and they were changing their pattern a couple times, and she didn't let that affect her. She was still putting it in areas, and we've got a massive block in that rotation. It's Anna and Carter and Sarah, and if you don't pass well and you give our group time to set up, it's a pretty tough deal.
Yeah, and do you think, is that another case that block had 15 total blocks in 3 sets, so 5 blocks per set? That ain't too bad. Is that another case of the serve kind of helping that block set up more effectively than maybe it could have?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's a when you're out of system and you're hitting a left-sided hitter, actually out of system. I think teams are hitting lower. How about this for a stat? Teams are hitting lower with Charlie up there in the front than they are Anna up in the front. I mean, that's, we're doing a really good job of defending around Charlie. She gets her hands in good spaces out of system. But teams are barely hitting positive from the left pin out of system. And that's where most balls are going. And teams aren't hitting too much higher on the right pin against us out of system. So, yeah, you're certainly we're helping our own cause by serving in a way to get people out of system.
Yeah, and Anna Spreck now has 3 straight matches in double figures. What a bounce back. We talked about the bounce back from Oregon to Michigan, but man, she's just consistently held that bounce back now for 3 straight matches.
She's playing well. Her and Charlie are connecting awfully well, and she's in a she's healthy. She's in a really good headspace. Those guys have put a lot of work in. She's put a lot of work in of being able to. It's how she is blocking is she's making even better moves than what she has. She's doing a really good job of getting in and helping on the quicks and helping on the back row attack, and her transition numbers continue to climb, and she's getting closer to being able to, her out of system numbers are getting close to what they were last year because they start off pretty low out of system. She's heading in the right way for sure.
Okay, we'll take a break. When we come back, we need to talk about the match tonight. 9-1 versus 10-0 at the UW Fieldhouse, Wisconsin and Nebraska. We'll talk about that matchup with head coach Kelly Sheffield next on the Kelly Sheffield Show. And welcome back to the Kelly Sheffield Show. A reminder, if you're listening to this live and you're headed to the Fieldhouse, first 6,500 fans get a white pom-pom for the matchup against Nebraska. And don't forget Wisconsin Volleyball on Friday, November 8th faces Iowa. It's the Carbone Cancer Awareness Night. Fill out the I Play For signs before the game to honor a person in your life affected by cancer and join the team in recognizing the great research being done at the university to treat and eradicate cancer. That is on Friday, November 8th. But let's talk about the Friday night matchup tonight. 9-1 Wisconsin, 10-0 Nebraska, midway point of the Big Ten season. I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than this. How big is this one in your eyes?
It doesn't get much bigger until probably the next time we play them.
Right.
I mean, you're in the second half of the Big Ten. So there's always you try to break up the season in different portions. You certainly have the non-conference, the first half of the conference, the start of the second half, and then the NCAA tournament. And it's, these guys are offensively, they're playing a lot better than what they were last year. And you would expect them to do that with a lot, a second year setter and almost everybody else returning. And they're playing really clean. There's some different things that they're doing this year than what they were last year. Their 95% service in is really high. I mean, it's just a very different philosophy than, say, like a Stanford, who's down in the low 80s of getting in. So, but they don't give many points away with service errors or reception errors. They are so clean in those areas of the game. They're much cleaner than we are in both of those areas, although we're up there. I think we're probably the second or third best passing team in the conference, but they just don't get aced. I would put our serving up against about anybody in the league. And but because of that, the trade-off is we're airing a little bit more because of our aggression. They're very rarely airing. They have a few more hitting errors than what we do. But this is as high of a hitting percentage Nebraska team as I've seen in a long, long time.
Now, you mentioned how clean they are. So does that put a little bit more pressure, for lack of a better term, on your team to not give them any other free points? Or how does that play out just because they're so clean?
That doesn't give away a lot of points anyways. They're probably have a little bit more, a little higher hitting error percentage than what other teams are. They're just killing it at a higher percentage. Yeah, it's rare for the elite teams to just give you a whole bunch of points. I mean, that's one of the reasons why you're elite. And I'd say these guys are, I mean, they've lost one match all year, right? And that was, I think the second week of the season. So these guys are playing really well. Now, one of the interesting things is I think almost all their matches have been at home. I think they've only been on the road like 5 times. All season, something like that, 5 or 6 times. It's I think they were 7 home matches, 3 on the road for the Big Ten, and I think they've only played 1 or 2 matches against teams that are in the top 5 or 6 in the conference right now. So they're going to start playing a lot of the better teams, and they're going to be on the road a lot more here. So it's about ready to get difficult for them, but it is for us as well. I mean, these next few weeks, I mean, we're playing everybody.
Yeah, they are 15-0 at home, 4-1 away. So those 5 total away from Nebraska, from Lincoln. So when I look at these stats, and your team's up at around 300 and above, and Nebraska's just knocking on the door with 300 hitting percentage. And what I find sometimes, though, when 2 teams like that, especially, I guess, 2 teams like you and Nebraska, it always seems that those hitting percentages come down. Is that something that
when you play each other?
Yeah, it's kind of more of a tough.
John, it's really weird. You go over, and there'll be some times that we'll be, because traditionally, I think both of us are like right there, 1 and 2, or in opponent hitting percentage, 1-2, 1-3, something like that, for years on and years. And offensively, we've been number 1 or number 2 most years offensively in the conference, and there's been a little bit more range with them. But we've had some matches where we'll go off offensively, and both teams against each other, and then you'll have times that both teams are hovering around 100. It's been really weird. Of the tradition, what you think you're going to get, you're not necessarily going to get. That's one of the things that just made it that makes this matchup so much fun.
Yeah, well, you were just talking about that. I brought up the 2 matches last year. The win in Madison, your team hit 357, so that was obviously really high. And then the one in Lincoln, you actually out hit them 217 to 130. So
thanks for reminding me on that. That was really odd, that match at their place, because it was we were hammering them for 2 of the sets, and we had a real chance of closing that out. I mean, we were 1 point away from winning in 4, right? I mean, we had match point on them, and that gives us 1 more win and then 1 more loss, while you tie for a Big Ten championship if you're able to score that 1 point. And we made this nice charge in the 5th, and we thought we tied it up, and we had a net violation. We had a monster night blocking, which was great, but at the end, that just going and trying to stuff, and I think we had three net violations blocking the 5th. It just but what are you going to say? Hey, don't be aggressive. Don't go. And it just, home run hitters every once in a while are going to strike out. What are you going to say? Stop swinging.
Yeah, no, exactly. No. And then when you look at Nebraska's roster, and they're, obviously very strong at all areas. What do you think you need to kind of key in, or is there a main focus with Nebraska that kind of oversees everything else? Kind of tough to say, obviously, when there's a team that good and talented in many aspects.
Yeah. Typically they're going to do what they do. They're probably not going to do a lot of changing. There's some times that they will try early on in the match to get some of their players that don't get a lot of sets. They want to get them involved early in matches. But they're typically going to start in a similar rotation that they want to. They're not going to make. They'll make some little adjustments with their block. Maybe in certain scenarios, maybe they will inch, the middles will inch toward the short antenna, the closer antenna. Maybe the wings, when the setter's in the pocket, will be a little bit more help and quick than, with some teams versus others. But it's you don't see these major changes in what they're doing defensively. Offensively, they will try to keep things balanced, but with a certain focus on attacking certain blockers. And, their servers will move it around to try to keep you off balance. They'll mix in some short serves, and, Cook may go, he's calling the serving zones. And so some servers, he'll have them dance around, or he'll set up the drive serves early, and then coming out of the locker room, he may start going more short a little bit later. But for the most part, who they are is who they are. And I've kind of found that that's the case with most of the elite teams. They're more concerned about themselves playing well than they are making these huge changes for an opponent.
All right, very cool. Looking forward to the match here tonight against Nebraska. Let's take a break. When we come back, we've got some questions from you, the fans, for the head coach of the Wisconsin volleyball team. This is the Kelly Sheffield Show. And welcome back. This is the Kelly Sheffield Show, brought to you by North and South Seafood and Smokehouse. All right, it's time for fan questions. And I put it out on X, asking for questions for you, head coach, Kelly Sheffield. And here's a few that we got. We actually got one without even asking for one. And it was right away. I think it was after the Purdue match. For this week's show, PM asks, can you please ask Chef what happened in the second set when Carter Booth went back to serve? There was a lot of confusion going on there, and then Booth ended up serving an ace.
Yeah, sometimes we make it more difficult than what it needs to be. Just go back there and serve an ace, right?
Yeah.
I think our serving sub. So we kind of had a deal where our middles are switching, right? One middle has two middles playing that one position, and then we have another middle who is Carter over here, and I think Sage came in. So Devin and Cece were switching, and Sage was supposed to come in for Carter, and she came in for the other middle spot, which meant Sage subbed herself in to play the front row, and Carter subbed herself in to go back and serve. So we called a timeout. We tried to get things situated, which brought the boiling point of the Purdue coach up quite a bit. And Carter just said, all right, enough with this. Laser beam.
Laser beam A's. Let's see here. Let's go to this one. Professional women's volleyball. This is like a question for you. Will have higher TV ratings than the WNBA. Agree or disagree?
Really interesting. I know the volleyball players are getting paid more than the WNBA, which probably says something, right? I think there is a real value. I think most of our tickets in Madison are sold out. People are answering the bell. It's the most popular team sport at the grassroots level that's being played in our country, and the in-person and TV viewership for college is off the charts. Continues to grow. We've not had a professional league here, and but yet our women's national team has done really, really well. I would not be surprised at all if that was a yes early on.
Mike asks, Yulia seems to be tipping or pushing the ball a lot this year. Is that by design?
I think by design is to score more this year.
Right now, Kelly Sheffield is breaking out the stats. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oz is hard swing 67% of the time, roll shots 11%, tipping 21%. And that's her freshman year, hard swing 65%, sophomore year 65%. So this year 67 is actually right on par, a little bit more. What I look at more is she is hitting 44 points higher than she has in her entire career. And so she has seen the court really well and in putting people in really tough situations. Yeah.
Okay. Joe asks, will the early losses against top opponents hurt us in our chase to host a regional?
Could. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the challenge, when you're scheduling those kinds of deals, I mean, there's no guarantees that you're going to win. There's a guarantee that you're going to learn something about yourself, which is really good. But if you have an injury, or if you're not playing very well, or you're just playing some of the best teams in the country and they're just playing better than you, it's they look at the entire body of work, the entire season, and that will come into play. Now, I'm sure they also will realize that we weren't healthy totally, but they're not going to discount it. It would be heavier weighed if that was within the last month of the season, it being the first week, the first 2 weeks. That's going to get down carded a little bit, but we still have a chance, I would think. We probably have to win out if we're going to be one of the top 4 seeds, would be my guess. But I think there's only 2 teams in the country that has more top 25 wins than us, maybe 3. And I think there's only 2 teams that have more top 50 wins. So it's and we've got plenty of big time matches in front of us. And so is it possible for us to be one of those 4? Yeah. Is it likely? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe. But we're going to just try to keep getting better and see where it takes us.
Well, a huge step would be a win over Nebraska, 10-0 versus 9-1. We've got the pre-match show coming up next with First Serve just after 8 p.m. By the way, I suggest more questions for Coach Sheffield in which he has to pull out his paper stats, because I love I get nerdy about numbers. And so I love hearing those numbers and the comparisons and everything like that. So that was really cool.
Here, I'll give you another nerdy stat. You were asking about Smrek. Smrek in the last month is hitting 420.
Wow.
That's her connection with Charlie has got to be pretty crazy right there.
Wow. There it is. Another number for you. All right. We've got the pre-match show coming up next. Once again, Wisconsin, Nebraska, right here just after 8 p.m. Thanks to head coach Kelly Sheffield. This has been the Kelly Sheffield Show.